Condemning Hamas earns Iranian woman an 18-year prison sentence. In a shocking display of Iran's harsh stance against dissent, prominent Iranian activist Fatemeh Sepehri has been sentenced to an additional 18.5 years in prison for condemning Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel and expressing solidarity with Israeli people. This sentence comes in the context of Sepehri's ongoing struggle against the Iranian regime, following her initial imprisonment in 2022 during the woman life freedom protests sparked by Mahsa Amini's death. Despite her poor health following a recent heart surgery, Sepehri boldly declared, quote, "I condemn Hamas's attack on Israel and say loudly that the Iranian nation stands behind the Israeli nation." This statement, seen as an act of defiance by the Iranian regime, resulted in multiple charges, including 7 years for supporting Israel and 3 years for insulting Iran's supreme leader. The severity of the sentence has drawn international attention, with Sepehri's elderly mother lamenting, quote, "They have built a case against our daughter, resulting in 18 and a half years of imprisonment for condemning Hamas." Sepehri's brothers also face imprisonment, highlighting the regime's tactic of targeting entire families of dissidents. So, this is this woman. This woman. People do not appreciate how freaking bold this woman is. Fatemeh Sepehri is a freaking
Sepehri.
wildfire. She's a hero. And
Sepehri.
Say it again.
Sepehri. Fatemeh Sepehri.
Sorry. I want people to go look her up. Go look up her speeches. She is freaking badass because she is not what most people who do our work or people who are interested in supporting liberalism across the world, liberalism in the Middle East, secularism in the Middle East, etc. Like, she is not who you would typically envision as one of your boldest warriors. She's very conservatively dressed. She's a Chidori. She's religious. And she does not hold back. Like, she goes so hard against the Islamic Republic. She goes so hard against Khamenei. She says that, and she is very brave in that she's when she's out of prison or before she was in prison, she will openly give presentations for organizations overseas that are against the regime. She'll go give very spicy interviews, and she really puts their feet to the fire, especially from the perspective of someone who used to be a regime supporter or have kind of a religious, this isn't the right term, but like a religious faith in it in a sense, because I believe it was either her husband or one of her brothers or family members died and was killed or martyred in the Iran-Iraq war. And she will talk about how this government says that you care so much about the families of the martyrs and they're supposed to receive certain benefits and stuff. Like, you treat us like shit. Like, what did we give these martyrs for? What did my family members die for this just totally shit country? So sorry, enough of my rambling. Armin, you're have more insight and can provide more context about more background details about who she is and why she's important.
Yeah, so she's important and is ignored by a lot of leftists also because she is. Let me actually make sure. It's important because a lot of Iranian communists who are, trying to take over the anti-regime activism, they don't really mention her that much because I think she had some pro-Pahlavi positions as well, and I think that's why they are boycotting her, even though she's one of the most bravest women. against the Islamic Republic, and she has no chills. Like, she is so brave. She says the things
I'm
that
gonna
are
go look up an interview
obviously,
of her.
yeah, she says things that are so obviously a crime, and you're not she knows that she's going to get arrested. She knows that she's going to pay a heavy price for it, and she does it anyways. She is like, yeah, I'm gonna just say the things that I want to say. And this one apparently was a huge red line for the Islamic Republic, the condemning the Hamas part. But I do want to play her video. Would you want to read it if I play it?
Sure.
The one that she's condemning Hamas? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me play the audio as well. Okay.
Oh, it's very quiet.
Oh, you want to read it? Yeah, it's very quiet. I don't
I
know why.
condemn
I just,
Hamas's attack on Israel and say loudly that the Iranian nation stands by the Israeli nation. That sentence alone is freaking
that's
crazy.
that is insane to say while you're in Iran, while you're an activist that is being watched by the Islamic Republic of Iran. That is insane to say. Like,
She
it's
could have stopped
crazy.
there.
Okay.
She could have just stopped
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, she didn't have to say. You know what? I actually don't think she got arrested for condemning Hamas. I think she got arrested for this first sentence. This is a lot more, much bigger red line for the Islamic Republic. But yeah, no, yeah, I don't think it's for condemning Hamas. There are other people who have condemned Hamas who haven't been arrested. I think it's this line that is a red line for them. Yeah.
The
Yeah, and
Islamic
then
Republic and its agents spend Iran's wealth to buy bullets and attack Israel. We, the people of Iran, do not want war and the killing of defenseless people, and I again condemn Hamas's attack. Since the rise to power of Ali Khamenei and the founding of the Islamic Republic, the Middle East has not seen peace. Again, no lies detected. I hope their cause will be closed forever in this storm of Al-Aqsa that they have created.
Okay, so let me explain a few things to people. In Iran, the opposition against the Islamic Republic, there's a division between Iranian people, right? So there are a lot of people that are very left leaning. They are Marxist, some of them are woke, and then there are other people who are more, not, I wouldn't say right leaning, but they are very allergic to all this leftist nonsense, and a lot of them are pro Pahlavi. And being pro Pahlavi and pro Reza Pahlavi or monarchist is kind of also a way to be away from these leftists, right? And these leftists, even though they're against the Islamic Republic, a lot of Iranians don't trust them because they say you were the people who brought these mullahs to power to begin with, and now we don't trust you in the opposition of Islamic Republic because whatever you want to bring next is going to be just as bad, right? So we already you already heard us once. We're not gonna trust you again, right? And this is why there's a huge division in among Iranians who are against the Islamic Republic, and a lot of people who don't want this leftist narrative are going around or their opposition against the Islamic Republic is with the centered around Reza Pahlavi and support of what the Pahlavi dynasty used to be, because the leftists, many of the far leftists who are against the Islamic Republic, they still hold their opposition to the Pahlavi dynasty before the Islamic Republic, and some of them think that the revolution was still a good thing to do, and that's what a lot of people hate them, because even though they hate the Islamic Republic, the fact that they also keep hating the Pahlavi dynasty before means that they still can't be trusted, right? So when it comes to her, Fatemeh Sepehri, she's also, when it comes to Iranian activists, she's one of the prisoners that has been a source of a lot of drama, because if you look at these leftists, when they mention political prisoners, a lot of times they don't mention her, because she has views that is more in line with these right-leaning people, or with, I don't know if we should call them right-leaning. Well, not like far left-leaning people.
Republicans, but not American
Yeah,
Republicans, as in supporting
yeah.
a republic as a system of government.
Well, I mean, that is going to, well, Republicans are, a lot of people think the leftists are Republicans. The right-leaning, the ones that are not left-leaning, they're the monarchists. But again, I'm not going to get into the details of that.
And then there's the
But you could also see here. Okay, I'm not going to get with it's. I'm not. Okay, so let's not get into that, because I have to correct out some things that you said. I don't want to do that right now. But again, here you could also see that she is supporting Israel, right? And a lot of the leftist Iranians who are against the Islamic Republic, they won't support Israel. They will. I mean, they're far leftists. Of course, this is like, they hate the Islamic Republic, but they also are anti-Israel, right? Because they're far leftists, obviously, right? But this is also a test for people. Israel has become, for a lot of activists in Iran who are against the Islamic Republic, a test on who is somebody you could trust, right? So we have, and because she's also supporting Israel right now, she is somebody that a lot of leftists want to dismiss as a political activist. They don't want to include her because she's supporting Israel, right? And that's why she's such a source of heavy drama. But the people who are, we call them post 57, because the 1979 Islamic Revolution on Iranian calendar was 1357. And we think that the people who want to make sure that we're allying with the correct people, we're looking for people who have the correct mindset and philosophy. And we call these people, we divide people not based on Muslim, non-Muslim, or based on left, right, or based on Republican or monarchist. The division that we think works effectively is people who still have the 57, the Islamic Revolution, the 90 philosophy, or they're post that, right? So 57 or post 57 people. And to do that, we have a couple of checks. One of them is whether they're hatred Pahlavi dynasty with. It's okay if they want to criticize the Pahlavi dynasty, but we think the people who hate the Pahlavi dynasty with a passion, they have failed the test, because they're still still have the 57 mindset. Another test is Qasim Soleimani. We call it the Qasim check, right? It's called the Qasim check, right? We'll see if do you think it was wrong for Trump to kill Qasim Soleimani or not? Do you celebrate that Qasim Soleimani died, right? That's called the Qasim check, right? A lot of people fail that test, even though they say that they're against the Islamic Republic. They condemn Trump's killing of Qasim Soleimani, and if anybody condemns Trump's killing of Qasim Soleimani, we say they failed the test. Israel is another test. We have an Israel test, right? So we see who supports Israel and who's against Israel. If you're against Israel, you fail the test. If you're against Israel, you fail the test. So we have an Israel test. So we have a Pahlavi test, a Qasim test, and an Israel test to see if you're post 57 or if you still have the 57 mindset. So just wanted to let you know a few things about Iranian politics these days. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about, I know that during her activism during the women like freedom movement, a lot of people didn't support her because she was still wearing chador. And they're like, you should, if you actually support us, you should take off your hijab, blah, blah, blah. But she's fully supportive of the women that want to take off their hijab, of the women who are doing it in defiance. Right. Like she was like openly being like, yes, well, not in this way, but like, go for it, girls. Like, you're brave. Yes. Like she had no problem with that, but then making it a purity test, political purity test, to be like, oh, well, you don't really support us unless you take off your chador, which some very religious women were doing. I felt like was kind of unfair. What do you think about that? And then people used
So
that as a reason to not support her, even though she was being persecuted.
so we have three narratives here, three ways of looking at this here. So there are some people who say like, oh, this revolution is a secular revolution, and there's a some Iranians who are considered a bit more extreme. They say no Iranian is Muslim and no Muslim is Iranian. Okay, no Iranian is Muslim and no Muslim is Iranian. That's a saying that they have. So they say anybody who's a Muslim, they are not really Iranian, right? That's what they're saying. So they are taking away their claim to being Iranian because they're Muslim. That's a really radical narrative that some people have. And, you know, some leftist Marxist people try to take that narrative also. It's weird because some leftists are trying to defend Islam, but then you also have some very hardcore radical ones that say you're not truly a revolutionary because you're supporting these Muslims who have destroyed our country. But then some people remind them that you Marxists were the people who used the Muslims to ruin the country. And then we have, so that's one extreme on one side. And then we have another extreme on the other side, people who say, some monarchists will, for example, say, especially because Pahlavis, all the Pahlavis were Muslims themselves. And they say that we have no problem with Islam. We want secularism. We want religion out of government, but we have no problems with Islam itself. We just want Islam out of government, right? And we respect Muslims and we love Islam. Everything is fine about Islam as long as it stays out of government. You know, we're not, like a lot of them will say, we're not Muslims ourselves, but we have no issues with Islam, right? And then we have a middle part, which I call the Enlightenment middle, which gets this narrative right. And this is what we're trying to advertise on our Atheist Republic Persian channel to Iranians, right? What we say is, for example, Fatemeh Sepehri, she's a hero. She's a Muslim. She's a hero. She supports women who are taking off their hijab, fighting against mandatory hijab. She chooses to wear the hijab, but she also supports the women who are fighting against mandatory hijab, right? So what I think that the middle ground is, which is here, not the middle ground is not always the correct thing, you know, just because it's in the middle. But here I think it is, right? You could be anti-Islam and also work with Muslims in a revolution at the same time. This is not a contradiction. In the same way, a Muslim who has Islamic views is basically not supportive, like not in favor of your atheistic views, but they're working with you. These are different battles, right? If I am taking a position against Islam, that doesn't mean I'm taking a position against every single Muslim. I am against their ideology, but on this other project, when we have a shared goal, I don't have to bring my fight against Islam into this battle. I can work with people that I have strong disagreements with. So, for example, a Muslim might think like, you know what, there's nothing wrong with hijab. There's something wrong with mandatory hijab. I disagree with that person. I think there's something wrong with hijab and mandatory hijab. I think there's a problem with hijab in general. It's modesty culture. My problem is not just with mandatory hijab. My problem is with hijab completely. She chooses to wear the hijab. I think hijab is bad. We have that disagreement. That's fine. We have a shared goal. This woman is a hero that I have some disagreements with. I would like to support her on this path, right? So there are a lot of people think that if you're anti-Islam, that means that you don't like Muslims, that you can't work with Muslims, that you can't share a project with Muslims, that you cannot unite with Muslims. I don't know where else do we have that standard? Where else do we work with people that we have agree with on everything? We don't do it. We don't have that standard on almost anything else. I am aggressively anti-Islamic, and I would love to work with Muslims on shared values and goals, even though I'm not going to hold back how anti-Islamic I am. And I think that's a position that a lot of Muslims should appreciate, because I'm not treating them like children. If you are a Muslim activist and I disagree with you on your Islam, I am trying to destroy your Islam, to be honest, right? but I'm not going to. What I respect you enough to think that you could handle that. I'm not going to treat you like this sensitive little snowflake that I have to censor myself, my position about Islam around you, for you to be able to accept me as somebody that I could work with. I am going to tell you how aggressively I am against Islam, and I expect you to be able to take that like a big boy or a big girl that is not going to fall apart because I'm showing disagreement with your ideology. Just like if you tell me that you're aggressively against atheism, I'm not going to take that personally. I am going to be able to tolerate that and work with you. I expect the same thing from you. That's, I think, that is the position that I think I try to advertise to many people in this revolution against Islamic Republic. Does that make sense?
Has spoken once again. No, but I agree, and that is the spirit of our community and our organization, and what we have been talking about and promoting and pushing for years. Like, I work with Muslims who are like the most patriotic anti-Islamist people I know, and yeah, great people. So, oh, okay. We have a couple of very juicy super chats. And so I'm going to go with the one that's the most relevant to the segment, and then we shall divert. Okay. So thank you to everyone who supports the show with the super chat. And kind of related to what we were just talking about, John was asking, Armin, have you met any veterans of the Iran-Iraq war, and how are they?
I mean, how could I have not? I've lived in Iran for more than 20 years. Like, that's half of my teachers, like in school. I mean, yes, like everywhere you, I mean, that's an 8-year war. Of course, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. Like, it's an entire generation of people who went to war. So in fact, people within a certain age, you would be more likely to bet that they're a vet from the Iran-Iraq war than not. Like, that you would bet like most of them, and many of them are. In fact, let me tell you a story. One of my teachers in high school once was talking about his memories of the Iran-Iraq war, and he started crying over the fact that he didn't die like his friend. He says that he lost the opportunity to be a martyr. His friend was lucky enough to die in war, but he had one shot, one war. Like, there's no more war right now, and he lost the opportunity to die in battle and become a martyr. And he was crying, sad about the fact that he didn't die in war. So that's a memory that I have. Yeah.
Which is basically the mental crises that the Taliban is going through right now.
Yes.
We've talked about that. How they like are having mental breakdowns over the fact that they have to do office jobs now.
Yes. Like, no, there's actually a huge anxiety among many. I mean, that's less in Iran right now, compared to before. But like, there's huge anxiety among many Taliban soldiers that there's no more war, and we're just gonna die in our bed rather than in battle, and we're not going to be martyrs. But in Iran, the government has changed the definition of who's a martyr. They're just calling everyone martyr. It's easy to be a martyr. Like, if you're working and if you're working because you're doing service to the Islamic Republic of Iran and you die on your way to work, they call you a martyr, right? I mean, they call Raisi is now called Shahid Raisi. Okay,
Oh my
he's
God.
Raisi. No, he's officially a murderer. Like, dude, it was a helicopter accident. Well, he was working, so that makes him a murderer. They just have redefined. Martyrdom has been redefined by the Islamic Republic of Iran. You get to be a murderer. You get to be a murderer. Everyone gets to be a murderer. So that's how it works.
The dilution of the Shahid.
Yes, exactly.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, actually, to kill people. Back in my day, I actually had to take helicopters down to be a martyr rather than be in a helicopter that
Oh my god.
right.
Um okay, okay, this is a juicy super chat.
Mhm.
Oh, love it. Okay. So let's dig into it. Next door neighbor. First of all, next door neighbor, thank you for the super chat and supporting the channel. Now let us address your concerns and criticism. They write, all your vids in the last 3 months are anti-Islam. Why have you turned from an atheist channel to an anti-Islam channel? Why don't you do an anti-Zionist extremist video for a change to prove that you haven't been bought? Well, next door neighbor, you will be shocked to discover that we have been making anti-Islam videos for and content in general for over 10 years. Uh this is not anything new by any stretch of the imagination. We have been very consistent and having a particular emphasis on criticism or sometimes just straight up mockery of Islam, given the fact that we were founded by an ex Muslim, this dude sitting right here when he was still in hiding, living in Iran. Shocking. I know. And given that many English speaking atheist channels don't want to talk about Islam because I don't know, they're scared or maybe been cucked into thinking that it's racist if you do so, shamed by I don't know, oftentimes Islamist sympathizers into not talking, or maybe people are scared to talk because they feel threatened. We felt that there was, shall we say, a need in the market for a non-believing community to actually come out and say these things. So we've always had a particular emphasis on this particular religion, especially considering that we are very interested in the human rights of atheists. And you might not know this, but the human rights of the non believers of atheists, coincidentally, totally by coincidence, happen to be most dramatically under threat in countries dominated by Islam. It's just an interesting correlation that I picked up. So, given that we are focused on protecting the rights, free expression, liberty, and just even their life of atheists, as is our mission statement, it maybe, would maybe, become relevant to us to focus on any particular idea or ideology that is maybe perhaps the most threatening to the life and safety and liberty of atheists. Just putting it out there, it's kind of a reoccurring theme that we can't help but notice. So it seemed, like important to talk about and discuss. Personally, the reason why I do this at all is because of the sheer amount of people. I cannot even count how many people I know personally who have been abused, persecuted, had to flee for their life, almost murdered, going through forced marriages, attempted conversions to not be gay, extreme abuse, being tortured by their government, tortured by their family, different cultures, different languages, different countries. But there was again a theme, a certain idea that was the common thread throughout all of that suffering and misery that justified the extreme maltreatment that these people were being put through. That idea that was justifying all that abuse was something called Islam. Regardless of that person's age, how long ago it happened, what language they spoke, what country they were in, that culture, all very, very different. All very, very different. But there was a common thread about why they were being abused and in fear. And so we like to talk about it, especially considering that this is something that deeply impacts the lives of many people that we consider friends, that are the closest people in my life, that we love and care about. Also, especially considering that we still have many people in our community and in our personal lives who are living in these places where this is not an imagination, this is an active threat. This is something that they actively have to monitor in their day to day life. And they can't talk about these things. Why can they not talk about these things? Because they don't want to be the next statistic, because they don't want to be the next person that we talk about on the news, on our news show that you're watching right now. So that's one reason why we maybe talk about this idea more than other ideas. Now you may be asking, okay, Susanna, that's all well and good, but I'm talking about these past 3 months. Well, really, I'm going to correct you. It's going to be the past 8 months. It's going to be since exactly, I'll give you the exact date that you're going to notice that we talk exclusively about this. And that date is something called October 7th, 2023. And that is again because there's a common theme. It became increasingly relevant. It became increasingly relevant, especially considering that the West, I don't really like calling it that, whatever. There's a lot of young people in particular around the world going through collective amnesia. People can't seem to figure out what's going on. A lot of people are being lied to. There's a lot of propaganda. A lot of people don't understand that they are literally being useful idiots for Islamic theocratic fascists that hang gay people from cranes, that crucify gay men, that want to murder atheists, that want to torture free thinkers, that justify and condone the systematic rape of women in their prisons, that want to keep women beaten down and in the household. A lot of people are being lied to. A lot of people have delusions. A lot of people are not being intellectually honest with themselves because they think, oh, well, if it's against the West, then I can link hands. I can close my eyes and pretend that everything that they stand for is not really happening because the root cause is something else, because I decided to pull the wool over my eyes and put my head in the sand and pretend that it's just something else. They're doing this all for something else. The reason why they're doing these things is all because of some other root cause that is ultimately my fault anyways. Let me just hit myself and self-flagellate and no. Okay, here's the thing. People don't realize that maybe the root cause is that they actually hate the entire concept of human rights. And believe it or not, that is actually, like, they say what they mean, and that they actually hate that, and that is actually why they do that. And they would do this in absence of the free world confronting their Islamist bullshit or not. You cannot exist in a free society and not be confronting Islamism. Its nature is to be in opposition with the very human rights, the concept of the human rights that you then flip on any Western power and show them how they're failing to meet up to those standards. As you should. But a lot of dumbasses don't realize that the people that they're uniting with solely on the basis of Muslim grievance, this is grievance politics, y'all, is merely because they hate the concept of human rights, the liberalism, anything that you are actually afforded in your free society where you can send me the super chat in USD. The existence of it itself is enough provocation to justify an attack. Low key, because they cannot come to terms with the fact that their caliphate doesn't exist anymore and it's a humiliation for them. They're lashing out. They have some emotional issues. So because there is a lot of delusion about this very tangible reality that many of us are noticing nowadays. It's certainly not me. Many millions of people are waking up suddenly being like, yo, what the fuck is going on? Why are people losing their mind? Why are there tons of college students wearing crop tops with ear piercings and their hair half shaved blue doing the namaz with Islamist preachers from CARE leading the call to prayer, talking about how they need to destroy everything that allows them to go kiss their girlfriend when they go back home? That seeing those images causes a lot of confusion in people, and we're here to talk about it and explain it. So I hope that was informative. About the nature of why we talk about what we talk. Okay, I'm sorry. I was actually
That
gonna
was
let
great.
Armin take this. I was actually gonna let you
That
take
was
this
good.
away.
I'm glad you didn't. Well, I mean, I have something to say, but that was fantastic. That was beautiful. But you
Ugh.
also gave me an opportunity to go respond to this with a meme. I just made a meme just to make sure to be captured.
Wait. Did someone make
Yes.
that for us? Like, this is amazing.
I just made it while you were ranting.
That's how long I was ranting. Shit, I blacked out.
No, it was easy.
Oh my god, that's amazing. Can you send that to me, please?
Yes.
I hate this, like, accusation at the end is like, "Why don't you talk about, these, extremists, like, to prove that you haven't been bought?" Just, like, giving a little flavoring, just a little salt sprinkle off the edge of the shoulder, off the, salt-based sprinkling of anti-Semitism, and like, "Can you prove
Right.
you weren't bought by the
No,
Jews?
I
Can you prove
yes,
you weren't
I'm
bought by the Jews?" Maybe
so
I just wanna say this. Ever considered?
I am so glad that you said to prove you haven't been bought. I'm so glad that you put that at the very end, the little touch of anti-Semitic trope at the very end, just to demonstrate why we focus on Islam a lot here. As I mean, again, I'm against Judaism and Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism and all other religions, right? And I've also have voiced my opinions even since October 7th about the costs of Judaism to Israel, right? And I think like one reason why I have been even in my debates when I'm defending Israel, I attack Judaism. Like these people don't know my record. Like, I mean, my main focus is on Islam and wokeism, but I attack Judaism in favor of Israel even after October 7th. I blame Judaism as not the ethnicity or the culture, but the religion. I blame Judaism for some of the weakness of Israel that led to October 7th. Israel is strong. Israel is a mix of two competing cultures. Okay. And I know a lot of Israelis are not going to like hearing this, but it's not Judaism that makes Israel a strong country. Is Western culture, is Western, I know it's hard to hear, but it's Western enlightenment that makes Israel a strong country. It's its liberalism, it's its democracy, it's its secularism, it's the separation of powers, and all the other values that Jews brought from Europe to Israel that made Israel a strong country. This is why you protest against your government before October 7th. When you were in the streets protesting against the coalition that you have, you were protesting for liberalism against a Middle Eastern ideology. Israel is a mix of ideas from the Middle East and ideas from Europe. The ideas from the Middle East make you weak, namely Judaism. The ideas that you brought from Europe makes you strong. That's why you're different from the other countries in the Middle East, because you have superior values. It's not the Judaism, It's the European Enlightenment values that the Jews brought to Europe with them. That's what makes you stronger. And when you have a very Jewish coalition in your government, that's when you become weak enough for October 7th to happen. So I have repeatedly said that, and a lot of Israelis don't like hearing me saying that. All right, because some of them say, no, we're a strong country because we're a Jewish country. No, it's not that you're a Jewish country. It's you're a country that protects Jews. That's the difference. You're a strong country, not because you're a Jewish country. You're a strong country because it's a country that protects Jews. And there's a huge difference. Protecting Jews is liberalism. Being a Jewish country is the opposite. You're a country that is an asylum, that it's a that's a sanctuary. Sorry, that's what I should say. A sanctuary for Jewish people. Not a country that is run by Jewish ways, but it's a country that is run by liberal methodology and customs and culture that makes it a safe place for people who are being attacked and hunted down all over the world to come and claim sanctuary and feel safe there. That is liberalism. That is not Judaism. I have repeatedly said that. I have repeatedly said that, but sometimes I don't want to say that because of that. Because people think that Judaism, that you should be equally anti-Judaism as you are against Islam. And that is insane. Sometimes I don't even want to criticize Judaism because how little of a threat it is to the world compared to Islam. And when somebody comes and tells me that you should be anti-Judaism as much as you are against Islam, it makes me want to shut up about Judaism and even Christianity. None of these other religions are trying to take over the planet. Judaism is not expansionary. Islam is trying to eliminate everything that is not Islamic. Where do you find that in Judaism? It's true that all religions are wrong. It's not true that they're all equally dangerous. Not even close. Not even close. Even though I speak sometimes against Judaism, I completely understand somebody who wants to focus on Islam and Islam alone. I would not blame any atheist if they say nothing against Judaism and focus completely on Islam. I would completely understand that, even though I take the position against Judaism sometimes. And I also don't blame an atheist activist that wants to focus on Judaism completely. For example, an atheist activist living in Israel, maybe their lives are mostly impacted by Judaism and they want to focus on Judaism. But I could very much sympathize with somebody that doesn't want to focus on Judaism, especially given that anti-Judaism, the religion positions, are often used to promote anti-Semitic talking points, especially like this. Oh, have you been paid? Have you been bought? You know what? Not yet. Not yet.
He wishes.
but we're completely given. This is a very leftist mindset. You know what I mean? Have you been bought? You know what? This is a good way for us to advertise that we have our PayPal link in the description and we are willing to take all of your Zionist money. All of your Zionist money. Send it our ways. Our PayPal link is in the description. Please use it as much as is possible for you. Okay? So, yeah.
Not yet, but I am for sale.
Yes.
Oh my God. And one thing that I think is important is that no one is under any obligation to criticize all religions or all ideas ever equally. You are under no other obligation to do so. And when it comes to comparing other ideas, people don't hold the same standard, but they hold the same standard when it comes to religions. Oh, if you criticize one, you must criticize all, right? Or you must think that they're all equally bad. And Armin made a very good point when saying that that's very, very dishonest to pretend that they are all equally dangerous, because it's not true. And the data proves that. And there was another point I wanted to make. Oh, man.
This whole
I like
this
how much.
whole if you support Israel, if you're just focusing anti-Islam, you must have been paid narrative. Imagine that is imagine somebody saying, like, nobody says that to like an atheist activist. Most atheist activist channels that are focusing only on Christianity.
Never.
Imagine how ridiculous that sounds. Like, look at all these American atheist channels and look how focused they are on Christianity. Imagine how ridiculous you sound if you go to them and be like, hey, have you been paid by Islamists? Right? But why is that obviously laughable? But when it comes to Jews in Israel, people are like, oh, yeah, have you been? It's obviously an anti Semitic trope that this is so much more normal than if you say it about anything else. Imagine if you are trying to protect, like you're an activist against dog abuse. You're looking at dogs that are being abused and you're trying to go and find them, protect them, fight against their owners, provide them a shelter, finding a better owner, and be like, why not cats? Have you been bought by the giant dog lobby or
Have you
something?
been bought by
What the
Big Dog?
have you been bought by Big Dog? Like, yeah, exactly. What? Nobody thinks like that. It's just normal to think like that when there's Jews involved.
Yeah, you don't play. Also, just as a side note, regardless of any accusations of receiving money, the entire idea of like, oh, if you criticize Islam, you are obligated to criticize other ideas, other religions, frankly, is Islamist appeasement. I don't care what anyone says. So, okay. Now that we got that out of our system, people are saying that I caught the Holy Ghost. You know what? Maybe you're right. And degenerate occupier of Jahannam is saying, I want a podcast of Susie ranting. Well, luckily you are watching that podcast right now. That's what you're consuming right now. That you're here. You arrived. So we got a few more super chats, so let's just go through these. Thank you to everyone who gave us super chats supporting the channel, like Monologic saying excellent stream, and Amit Das saying best rant I have ever witnessed. Well, thank you. I hope you subscribe and stick around because I do this a lot. I'm trying to bring back the Susie rants segment at the end of every stream. You know, I took a little break because I've been traveling on vacation, and also I don't want it to be forced. I want to give you
natural,
the real unadulterated
yes
fury that you've come to love and appreciate, and that has to be authentic, you know?
Authentic, yeah, people can tell if you're having a Susie rant just because you wanted to make sure you include a Susie rant, right? It's better that you just let it come when you feel like it, so it's like completely organic.
Yeah, sometimes I can't even hold it to the end of the show when it's supposed to be my segment. Sometimes it just like people, I caught the Holy Ghost. You know, I'm speaking in tongues. So the Nubist girl, speaking of being paid off, thank you, Nubist girl, for being our exhibit A. We can go home now. Zionist conspiracy, pay pig confirmed. Okay, because we got the 15 shekels. Boom, you're done now. Okay. Thank you for the super chat, the Nubist girl, saying I'm an hour and a half late, but the Mecca pilgrimage thing is literally natural selection theory in action. Either that or God is on a mission to destroy Islam. I'm not exactly.
I don't like that.
Just people dying.
I don't like that. I don't.
Yeah.
Yes. First of all, natural selection does not work like that. These people probably already had children, and also natural selection doesn't work like that because the numbers are not going to make the numbers you're talking, like, for natural selection to work, the numbers have to be astronomically different than what's being reported. And also, that's, I think, like, talking about natural selection when it comes to humans, I don't like that. I mean, when I was blaming these people for their stupidity. I wasn't like that ended up making them dead. That was me trying to warn other people for not doing the same thing so that they don't die. You know what I mean? Like, to be like, don't be stupid. Like, take care of yourself and stay alive, right? When we're talking about natural selections in humans, to me, it comes off as if we're celebrating their death, and I want to make sure that we don't do that, right? So when I was like saying like this was not Saudi's government's fault, it was their own fault. It was not my attempt to say that they got what they deserve. It was to say that, hey, people, don't be like this. See this as a warning. Don't be this stupid. Like, that's a message that, don't cut corners when it comes to your health and safety, right? But again, I'm not saying that you're suggesting that you're celebrating their death. But sometimes when we're talking about natural selection, we're like, hey, well, good thing evolution is doing its work. We don't want to do that, okay? And also, we don't want to lean into social Darwinism, especially coming from Israel. Social Darwinistic mindsets is exactly what killed 6 million Jews during World War II, right? So
Yeah.
let's just be careful not to have that mindset, okay? That we want to, because Darwinism and evolution is how nature works. It's not how humans should operate. When we construct society, we don't make evolution our guideline. We humans have evolved beyond evolution. We into better ways of evolution. Here's the thing. Let me actually go off against social Darwinism and celebrating evolution doing its thing. All right. I want to speak against it, right? Liberalism is a force against evolution, and that's why it's good. Because evolution, metaphorically, because evolution doesn't have any purpose, it doesn't have any desires, it doesn't have any goals, because it's not intelligent, right? But metaphorically, if we could simplify what evolution is, and it's the survival of the fittest and the elimination of the weakest, right? Liberalism is the very exact opposite, and we are better for it. Okay? Liberalism is the protection of the weakest, right? Liberalism is to get strong for the purpose of protecting the weakest. We know evolution is right, but we don't use it as a model. We, in fact, do the opposite. We don't look into nature and try to copy it when it comes to structuring our society. We just see it as a reality. Trying to copy evolution as a way to structure our society is almost like just pushing people to the ground, saying like, well, law of gravity is a force of nature. That's why I'm pushing people so that they could fall, because I want to submit, because I want everything must fall, everything must go down. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Imagine pushing people off rooftop because you want to make sure that gravity is a source of your morality. Trying to make evolution a source of your morality, just like the Nazis did, is kind of like, hey, well, the theory of gravity is the thing, so let's push people off rooftops. That's what it sounds like. Again, I'm not saying that you're into social Darwinism. I'm just using this as a rant against social Darwinism, because a lot of people think that, well, if we accept evolution as a fact, then we should structure our societies based on it. And that is basically a very illiberal way of looking at the world.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, yes.
And we got a comment from John, and this is following up on our last segment when you were talking about the Iran-Iraq war, saying, interesting, PTSD treatment must be non-existent in the Islamic Republic of Iran. I've heard tales of Iraqis terrified by Khomeini's child soldiers. Unrelated, what are your thoughts on Arash Azizi? Arash Azizi, if I'm remembering correctly, is an Iranian socialist writer who wrote a book called What Iranians Want. I think he also wrote a book about.
He's the leftist guy that keeps getting invited on BBC Persian.
You were talking about him before we started the show?
Yeah, I was talking about the same guy. This is the guy that was like, I was talking about the show that Iran International just recently had So Iran International just recently had a show about ex-Muslims in Iran, and they had this leftist guy, and I was like, this new leftist guy is getting invited on all the shows everywhere, and he's embarrassing. Like, his takes are horrible. And I'm actually going to do a show on this, on that segment on Iran International. So he's a far leftist guy that is getting invited everywhere for his opinions, and I hate his views. So that's my opinion.
I have a mutual connection to him. Do you want to have him on the Persian
Yeah, I'm
show?
going to invite him on my channel and debate him, maybe, if he
Oh,
comes
yeah.
on the Persian channel. Yeah.
Let me know if you need my connection. My. And I really liked this comment from Chuck Norris Gun Club. I was depressed before this show. My car's messed up, no car and no phone, but I am cheered up. And that's what we're here for. Some might say our method is a little bit unorthodox, but talking about the woes and injustices and dumb ideas in this world, but this is what we come for.
Do you know who makes the most amazing, gorgeous, and other adjectives that I can't use here on YouTube, blasphemous art ever? We do! And for some reason, we are giving it away for free. Download them now using the link in the description before we change our mind.